Hello, everybody. My name is Crystal Grama, and my mentor's name is Ian. Today, I'll be presenting on the impact of Genshin Impact's design choices. I'm presenting from Los Angeles, California, and a little background on why I became interested in this topic. I'm a huge fan of the game Genshin Impact, and I wanted to do some research to maybe try and figure out why I was so drawn into this game in the first place. So our table of contents. First, I'll be introducing key concepts, and then I'll dive into my research, which includes an autoethnography and a design analysis of Genshin Impact. And lastly, my discussion where I'll talk about gameplay, design features, and future takeaways. So first, an introduction into user experience. So user experience in a game dictates how easy or difficult it is for a player to interact with the game. A smooth user experience is crucial for retaining players and making the game enjoyable, and past research indicates that a well-designed user interface can sustain player engagement over time. And aesthetics like good graphics and relatable characters also play a role in keeping players hooked. And in-game purchases or microtransactions are bundles, skins, currencies, etc. that you can buy within a game. These can range from cosmetic items to speed up your progress or even gambling elements that provide you with random rewards. And different types of players show different spending patterns. Studies show that having the option for in-game purchases keeps players engaged longer, but it can also be a double-edged sword, leading to increased chances of players quitting the game after a period of 3 weeks. And games also stir up a wide range of emotions in players. These emotions can deeply impact how much time a player spends in a game and whether or not they decide to spend money. So, for instance, feeling emotionally attached to a character might encourage players to buy character-specific items. And some background on the game itself. Genshin Impact is a role-playing game that's free to play but also offers in-game purchases. And the game became an instant hit and boasts tens of millions of active players every day and every month. And it uses a currency called Primogems that players can buy with real money, or they can just play the game and eventually they'll save up enough of this currency. And this system has helped the game generate billions of dollars in revenue. However, Genshin Impact is so successful, there's still a gap in understanding which specific features encourage players to spend money or to continue playing. So while conducting my research, I aim to try and answer the question, how do specific design features in Genshin Impact influence players' willingness to spend money? So next, my autoethnography. So the first thing that caught my attention about this game were the stunning graphics. However, the main thing that got me hooked was the game's limited reward system, known as the gacha system. It functions on the Primogem currency. And these primos, as they're often called, are often given out in small quantities through daily tasks and are critical for summoning new characters. So the fear of missing out hit me really hard because missing out on one day reward means losing out on potential new characters. And eventually the game started to lose its charm for me because of the repetitive gameplay and lack of new content. Also, the pressures of schoolwork started to outweigh the game's appeal. I took the difficult step of quitting and I resisted the urge to return even when I heard about new updates or received invitations from friends. And so after quitting all video games for 3 months, I started my design analysis on a brand new account in order to have a fresh perspective. To get a well-rounded view of the game, I kept an eye on several key elements. So first, I tracked the narrative development to see how the story grabs and holds player attention. I also focused on gameplay mechanics, assessing how complex but user-friendly they are. The user interface was another point of interest where I evaluated the simplicity and accessibility of menus, maps, and other in-game elements. And I paid special attention to monetization features, looking at how in-game purchases are presented and their impact on the gameplay. And lastly, I gauged player engagement by examining the effectiveness of the game's rewards, challenges, and other features aimed at keeping players hooked. So many video games use self-determination theory in order to attract and keep players, and Genshin Impact is no exception. Self-determination theory was a theory developed by psychologists Richard Ryan and Edward Deci that suggested people are motivated to grow by three psychological needs. Competence is the ability to control their life experience, learn and master skills, and grow in knowledge. Autonomy is the ability to have control over their life, and relatedness is where a person has a desire to emotionally connect and interact with other people. So these are some key patterns that I observed in the design. So Genshin Impact doesn't have an auto fight setting, meaning players have to defeat enemies using only their skill and experience with the controls and character abilities. So this function prevents people from getting distracted by other things in their surroundings, especially during fights, since if the player leaves the character alone, an enemy could spot it and kill them while the player is away from their device. So by forcing the player to actually play the game instead of just leaving a battle on auto mode, the player has greater control over the gameplay, spends more time playing, and becomes more immersed in the world. This affords players a variety of play options, thereby providing them with a greater sense of autonomy. By exploring the game, the player can find a lot of treasures and rewards. Some of the treasures are hidden or they're in plain sight, and you just have to defeat enemies to claim the rewards. But others are hidden until a puzzle is completed. And sometimes players can complete timed challenges by collecting these glowing orbs, activating exploding barrels, or fighting enemies within a time limit in order to receive a chest. And by exploring, players also get the chance to find hidden quests that give greater rewards after completion. The rewards and the treasure create a powerful motivation in players to explore every location. And many players form strong attachments towards different characters due to their looks, personality, history, abilities, or a combination of these traits. Players sometimes feel compelled to spend money on characters to increase their power. And Genshin also offers many opportunities to personally connect with these characters in the game, including by having these characters speak and interact with the player. The interactions and support given by playable characters and non-playable characters can satisfy relatedness needs. So some unique aspects of the design that I discovered include the lack of pop-ups, focus on personal gameplay, and easier player progression. So pop-up ads have long been regarded as annoying and interruptive, and they also ruin the interactive elements of a game's gameplay. By not including pop-ups in the game, Genshin Impact allows the player to become fully immersed in the world and focus on the story instead of being distracted by ads that try to convince them to spend money. This helps players stay completely absorbed in the game or in a state of flow. Also, Genshin Impact doesn't have a real player versus player mechanic, making the game a lot more enjoyable for free-to-play players or people who don't spend money on games. And a lot of other games with a similar style to Genshin Impact, there's a ranking system where players have to fight against each other for the top spots. And usually the highest ranked players are always the ones who spend the most amount of money. Having competition can cause games to lose out on feelings of competence and autonomy. However, since Genshin Impact doesn't have this kind of mechanic, players feel much less pressure to spend money. Also, I found that it's a lot easier to level up and progress in Genshin Impact than in some other games, contributing to feelings of competence. As player level increases, more and more XP is required to level up, but once players reach certain points in their levels, the rewards given to them also increase, making it easier to catch up. As for future implications and takeaways, Genshin Impact uses a soft sell approach when it comes to its in-game sales. So they never once push in-game purchases onto the player, and they instead choose to draw players into the gameplay. Their main goal is to create long-term players who will eventually pay for in-game purchases as the rewards decrease over time. As I mentioned before, I quit the game because it was starting to feel repetitive, and there was a lack of new content, and it was taking time away from my studies. But in order to combat these issues, Genshin regularly releases new characters, and new areas of exploration, providing more opportunities for players to get rewards and experience new gameplay mechanics. And because Genshin Impact is so widely successful, especially in East Asian countries like China and Japan, studying the game with more surveys, analysis, and experiments may provide useful information for future games and developers. Different courses and curricula on game design can focus on Genshin Impact and what Hoyoverse, the company that created Genshin, has done to make this game so popular and profitable. And I hope this presentation provides you with a unique perspective about games. And thank you all for listening.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Crystal. Um, do you have a question here that was submitted here? So I know you mentioned that you sort of quit the game, that you're no longer playing the game anymore. But so after analyzing this game as a researcher, is your approach to video games different now, or like do you think that the player experience for you is going to be different whether you play this game or something else?
It is because um I have started playing Genshin Impact again because
Okay,
over winter break, I had a lot more spare time, but I am also probably gonna quit again. But I notice like the way that they schedule the release for the limited time events and stuff, I kind of notice things now. They always make sure that there's enough time in between the events for players to like play the event and get the rewards, but it's short enough time between events where players don't like start to lose interest again. So they're always just providing you with new content to make sure that you're still interested in the game. And I notice it with like other games that I play too.
got it. So it's sort of, recognizing, or I guess the self-awareness of like what these companies are actually doing to sort of keep you as a player involved and continuing to play the game and potentially pay more money for different characters and things like that. So very cool, really interesting project. Thanks,
Thank you.
Crystal.